Welcome to Stereopedia. Today, we break down the facts behind two famous tuning frequencies, 432 Hz and 440 Hz. Is 432 Hz really more natural and healing? Is 440 Hz just a global standard, something more? Let's separate myth from science in this analytical overview.
Facts about 432 Hz versus 440 Hz frequency. An analytical overview. The debate surrounding the tuning frequencies of 432 Hz and 440 Hz has gained substantial attention in musical and scientific communities. This article examines the historical context, acoustic properties, and claimed effects of these two tuning standards, aiming to provide an objective comparison grounded in factual evidence. Musical pitch standardization is essential for consistency in performance and recording. The modern standard tuning pitch for the note A above middle C is typically set at 440 Hz, adopted officially by the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, in 1955. However, a subset of musicians and researchers advocate for 432 Hz as a more natural and harmonious tuning frequency. This article explores the factual basis behind the 432 Hz versus 440 Hz discussion. Historical context. 440 Hz adoption. The 440 Hz standard was recommended by the American Standards Association in 1936 and later adopted by the ISO. It aimed to unify disparate tuning standards prevalent in orchestras and recordings globally. 432 Hz claims. Historically, 432 Hz was used in various musical traditions and is sometimes referred to as Verdi's, after composer Giuseppe Verdi, who reportedly preferred tuning around this frequency. However, widespread historical documentation is limited. Acoustic and physical differences. Frequency definition. Hertz Hz measures cycles per second of a sound wave. A tuning at 432 Hz means the A4 pitch oscillates 432 times per second, compared to 440 oscillations per second for 440 Hz tuning. Pitch perception. The 8 Hz difference is subtle but perceptible to trained musicians and attentive listeners. The difference equates roughly to a quarter tone lower in pitch for 432 Hz. Harmonics and resonance. Some proponents argue that 432 Hz tuning aligns more closely with natural resonances found in nature and human biology, though scientific verification is limited and controversial. Claims and scientific scrutiny. Healing and relaxation. Advocates claim that 432 Hz music promotes relaxation, reduces anxiety, and enhances meditation. These claims are largely anecdotal, with limited rigorous scientific studies supporting them. Mathematical and cosmic connections. Some theories suggest 432 Hz resonates with cosmic frequencies, sacred geometry, and natural phenomena. These ideas, while popular in alternative circles, lack empirical evidence from physics or acoustics. Scientific studies. Controlled studies comparing physiological responses to music at 432 Hz versus 440 Hz show mixed results. Factors such as music style, individual listener differences, and placebo effects complicate conclusions. Practical implications. Musicians and producers choosing 432 Hz tuning often seek a different emotional or atmospheric quality in their music. The global music industry continues to predominantly use 440 Hz tuning due to standardization and compatibility. While 432 Hz tuning holds cultural and subjective significance for many, 440 Hz remains the globally accepted standard pitch. The scientific community requires more controlled research to validate claims about the health or cosmic benefits of 432 Hz. Ultimately, preference for tuning frequency may rest on artistic choice and listener perception rather than objective superiority. Absolutely. I'll expand the article by adding detailed explanations to each section, making it clearer and more informative. Here's the revised version with thorough explanations included. Facts about 432 Hz versus 440 Hz frequency. An analytical overview. The debate surrounding the tuning frequencies of 432 Hz and 440 Hz has gained substantial attention in both musical and scientific communities. This article examines the historical context, acoustic properties, and claimed effects of these two tuning standards, aiming to provide an objective comparison grounded in factual evidence and clear explanations. Musical pitch is a fundamental aspect of how music is created, perceived, and shared. To ensure that musicians can perform together harmoniously, there needs to be a standard reference frequency for tuning instruments. Today, the internationally recognized standard is the note A above middle C tuned to 440 Hz cycles per second. However, an alternative tuning of 432 Hz has been proposed by some musicians and enthusiasts who argue it offers more natural and pleasant sound qualities. This article explains the differences between these frequencies and the evidence behind the claims surrounding each. Historical context. 440 Hz adoption. The 440 Hz tuning standard was officially recommended in the early 20th century to unify various disparate pitch standards. Before this, orchestras and instrument makers used different tunings, often ranging from about 435 Hz to 450 Hz, causing compatibility issues. In 1936, the American Standards Association recommended 440 Hz, and this was later adopted internationally by the ISO in 1955. The adoption of 440 Hz allowed for consistency in music performance and recording, facilitating collaboration worldwide. 432 Hz usage. The tuning of A equals 432 Hz has historical mentions, such as in the works and preferences of some classical musicians like Giuseppe Verdi, who advocated tuning around 432 Hz for its purported warmth and clarity. Additionally, some ancient musical traditions and tuning systems align closer to this frequency. However, systematic historical evidence confirming 432 Hz as a universal or dominant standard prior to modern times is lacking, and it appears more as an alternative rather than a widely adopted pitch. Acoustic and physical differences. What does frequency mean? Frequency, measured in Hz Hc, describes how many times a sound wave vibrates per second. For example, a tone at 440 Hz oscillates 440 times each second. The human ear perceives these oscillations as pitch, so higher frequencies correspond to higher perceived notes. Difference between 432 Hz and 440 Hz. The difference between 432 Hz and 440 Hz is 8 cycles per second, which translates to approximately 31.8 cents. A cent is 1/100 of a semitone in musical tuning. This means that 432 Hz tuning sounds slightly lower and flatter than 440 Hz tuning. For most casual listeners, this difference is subtle but can be detected by trained musicians or those with sensitive hearing. Harmonics and resonance. Proponents of 432 Hz tuning argue that it better aligns with natural harmonic patterns and resonates more harmoniously with human biology and the natural world. The idea is that since many natural systems, such as planetary orbits or biological rhythms, operate in frequencies related to 432 Hz, music tuned to this frequency may feel more in tune with nature. However, scientific verification of these claims is limited. Harmonics and resonance are complex and depend on the musical context, instrument, and listener perception. Claims and scientific scrutiny. Healing and relaxation effects. One popular claim is that music tuned to 432 Hz promotes relaxation, reduces stress, and aids in meditation and healing. Some listeners report feeling calmer and more centered when exposed to 432 Hz music compared to 440 Hz. While these experiences are valid on a personal level, controlled scientific studies have yet to conclusively demonstrate consistent physiological benefits. Variables like music genre, tempo, listener expectations, and placebo effects often influence such outcomes. Cosmic and mathematical theories. There are theories suggesting that 432 Hz corresponds to universal constants or cosmic frequencies, connecting music with sacred geometry, ancient knowledge, or natural laws. For example, some suggest that 432 Hz relates to the Earth's rotation, the speed of light, or the Fibonacci sequence. While intriguing, these ideas largely reside outside mainstream science and lack empirical support from physics or acoustics. Scientific studies. Few peer-reviewed studies directly compare the effects of 432 Hz and 440 Hz tuning on listeners. Among those that do, results are mixed and often inconclusive. Differences in individual perception, psychological factors, and the complexity of sound make it difficult to isolate the impact of tuning frequency alone. Practical implications. Musicians and producers who choose to tune to 432 Hz typically do so to evoke a specific mood or aesthetic. The slightly lower pitch may feel warmer or more relaxing. Despite this, 440 Hz remains the global standard due to its widespread adoption and practical benefits for instrument manufacturing and ensemble coordination. Listeners may prefer one tuning over the other based on personal taste, cultural background, or the context in which the music is heard. Ultimately, the choice of tuning frequency is subjective and artistic rather than scientifically dictated. In conclusion, both 432 Hz and 440 Hz are viable tuning frequencies with subtle perceptual differences. The 440 Hz standard enjoys global acceptance and scientific grounding, while 432 Hz holds cultural and subjective appeal. Claims of 432 Hz superior healing or cosmic properties are mostly anecdotal and lack rigorous scientific validation. Musicians and listeners are encouraged to explore both tunings and decide based on personal preference and artistic expression.